Very good, everybody. I think we can get started. Welcome. My name is Afshan Lotfi. I'm the Executive VP North America here at Ataccama. I would like to thank you for joining and welcome you here on behalf of both the Ataccama and MANTA teams. So our focus today will be one of our exciting new offerings, specifically data lineage in the wider context of data management, which is, of course, a direct result of the recent partnership between Ataccama and MANTA. This new offering will focus on how self-driving data management and governance can be improved for both business and technical users with inclusion of the data lineage functionality. So here today with me, I have both David, Product Manager at Ataccama, and Ernie, SVP of Products at MANTA. I'll turn things over to them in just a moment. But first, before we get started, I'd like to go over what we can expect in the next 45 minutes. So let's take a look at the agenda. We'll start with a quick look at why enterprises are turning to data lineage to help them better understand their landscape and what it really takes to get started with this journey. We'll spend most of the session today on the third point in the slide, which will be covered by David and Ernie. And we'll really talk about the benefits of Lineage, particularly in the context of how business users can interact with the data lineage functionality. And we'll finish up the session with an overview of Ataccama's platform and some of the other offerings that we have within the Ataccama ONE ecosystem. We will definitely have some time for questions, which I'm hoping there'll be quite a few from your side. We'll address these at the end of the webinar. Feel free to share your questions in the chat or the Q&A section. And toward the end, I'll make sure to address all of the questions, and we'll be more than happy to go over any new questions you may have. So with this quick introduction, I would like to jump right into it. We'll hand it over to David, who will take it from here. David, it's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction, Afshan. Hello, everyone. This is David speaking. Today, I'm excited to show you the output of the recently announced Ataccama and MANTA partnership. We chose a really visual form of webinar today. So we don't want to bore you to death with a bunch of slides with many bullet points and empty phrases. So we would like to do instead is show you look directly into the tool, how you can actually use it, what is you are getting from the tool, so you can start thinking through your head how you can actually leverage it in your day-to-day basis. So be prepared. You will see a lot of examples directly in the tool, and I hope you will appreciate this form of the webinar. So before we take a look at the lineage and the offering, I would really like to quickly summarize in 5 minutes why you need data lineage, and I would like to show it an example of data catalog. Data catalog, they have been and they still are really trending topic. And overall, the purpose of having data catalog is to document all the available data assets you have in the company, and then share this information with everybody in the company. Basically, it's about documenting knowledge and then providing the knowledge to everybody that's working with the data so they can easily find the data, understand it, and use it. And data lineage is one piece of the information. It's one piece of the knowledge that should be included in the data catalog as well. I have one quick example here. Imagine your team is preparing a marketing campaign and they want to send out a promo code to your customers that have a birth date in one specific month, January, let's say. So what some of the guys in the team would do is they would open Ataccama ONE. What you are seeing here is the data catalog section, and you can see a search result page. On the top, there's a search query, customer's birth date, and you can see related assets that actually contain both of these information. Once we take a look at the first one, the party table, we will get a lot of interesting information on the table level for the whole asset, information about business terms that are actually being mapped in given data set, some information about data quality, about the validity of the data, consistency, etc. Then we have some insights provided by the platform, by the machine learning inside the platform about some anomalies in the data and outliers, etc. And overall, you get a really nice picture of what's the data set you are looking at. In this case, we are interested in birth date, so we can take a look at the detail of this specific attribute, and we can actually see that there are some issues with this data. In this case, there are 3 outlier values, null, NA, and this default value for date. And the platform is actually suggesting me to cleanse the data so I can use it for my campaign. Obviously, I don't want to be sending the promo codes to all the customers that have this birth date. I am not sure they are really 120 years old. So I guess we want to cleanse the data before we use it. But without data lineage, I don't really know if somebody did it. So maybe another colleague needed to use this asset before me. He cleansed the data, and there is a better version of this data set available, but without data lineage, I wouldn't really know about it. I don't understand what the source of this table I'm looking at. I don't know where it's coming from, and I'm not really sure if there is a better version available. So this little tab, data lineage here, is super important because it contains critical knowledge and critical information that every user needs in order to understand the asset they want to work with. So this is just a really quick intro. I wanted to give you some example of what we will be talking about today, how we can actually import the lineage, how we can leverage it, and how your users can use it. So let's start with the data lineage. We have our colleagues on the call, and I would like to hand over to Ernie, and Ernie will quickly summarize how you can automate the process of generating data lineage. Obviously, this is not something you want to do manually, and basically he will walk you through the MANTA offering. So Ernie, up to you.
Thank you very much, David. Everyone, thank you for participating today. MANTA is a lineage provider. We offer a platform for analyzing lineage across your entire data lifecycle, and we are very excited to be working closely with Ataccama and the extra value that they provide to the lineage solution. Go ahead, next slide, David. So how does MANTA work? Well, our main offering, called MANTA Flow, crunches or parses through all of your different assets, your stored procedures, your ETL programs and scripts, your reporting tools, and more. And it goes through and looks at your individual select statements, your insert statements, the columns that are used in those, the individual where clauses, and the transformation expressions. And as it's going through and organizing and parsing that information, it's tracking the lineage along the way so that I can understand that this column that was selected from this particular table was inserted into this other table or written into a file or wherever it is as it's flowing through that ecosystem that you have. And then as it's doing that, it's allowing the various nodes and connection points to be illustrated in a graphical fashion. And, as we see with Ataccama, being able to be pushed up into the governance tool where it can be offered with a whole lot of additional added value that David is going to be talking about. Let's take a quick look at kind of what this integration appears as, in the visualization in particular. So we see here is kind of a high-level visualization of the lineage. This is kind of the first place that everyone starts. Now you can go back up. Yeah, so this is like kind of where everyone starts. It's sort of at the table level because you want to have sort of a high-level view of how things are flowing. And then as you drill in, you want to see more details, you would go down further to see what the individual columns look like. And then from here, there's additional drilling that could be done. This is only a screenshot here, but individual details about the SQL expression, if this was SQL and a stored procedure, or going into the individual transforms is something else that could be done at this particular point. And being able to see, you could already tell, you know, from the arrows, as David was saying, that I would be able to see where something was coming from and possibly recognize a colleague's procedure or other upstream actions or downstream actions that I either need to check out or be on the lookout for changes of. Now, one of the other elements that is unique to the MANTA platform is the ability not to just see history, not just to see Lineage today, but to be able to go back and look at history. And we've all been in situations where, one of our reporting analysts comes running into the room and says, oh my gosh, I need to know where this number came from and how it was calculated at the end of 2018 or at the end of third quarter, perhaps because of regulatory compliance reasons or just some other concerns that we need to track down. And that can be difficult to do, but the MANTA solution is providing what you might call time slices as the metadata is analyzed, and we keep that so that you can go back and look at it. So in the most simple case, I might say, take me back to September 30th of 2019 to see the lineage as it was at that point in time. But even more powerful, as you can see in this particular screenshot, is the ability to compare today's lineage to the lineage at September 30th. And what you're seeing here is that everything that is slightly grayed out is the lineage specifications that remain the same, but everything that's old or that was part of the September 30th lineage only is showing up in red, and then everything that is new, specifically to today, is showing up in green. And that becomes a very, very powerful way to do both root cause analysis as well as being able to look in the past and just see exactly what the history of the code and your transformations actually were. Thank you, David. Hand it back to you and remainder of the topic.
Thank you, Ernie. So now to the main part of this webinar. I guess when you talk with somebody about data lineage, this is what you usually imagine, right? The technical flow. But the question is, how is this picture we just showed you useful for the business? The business is usually looking at the problem from different perspectives. They don't really understand the attribute names, usually some codes such as gust_no. They don't really know what it means. They use different terms and they have some definition associated with the term, but they are not really sure if this gust_no is the same as customer ID as they are used to. So that's, for example, one issue they might have. Another issue is connected with the fact that the business is usually not that interested in one specific table. They want to work with all data sets that contain some specific information. So the data protection, for example, is forcing you to track your PII data. So you don't want to look at one specific table, right? You want to see all the tables that contain PII data, and you want to see the flow for those assets. And I guess it all comes down to trust. Again, going back to data catalog, the ultimate question is, can I trust this data? Is the report I'm looking at really trustworthy? The data load was successful, or was there any issue with that? This is what the business wants to know, and they don't get this this answer from the visualization we saw so far. So how can we help with that? We already covered what MANTA can provide out of the box. And the interesting part is when you combine it with the metadata that's being managed in Ataccama ONE. Ataccama ONE has a data catalog and overall metadata management solution that allows you to manage business terms in a glossary. You can actually run data quality checks, so you can both manage your rules and then evaluate them in the platform. And using AI and some additional expert system rules, we are able to detect anomalies, etc. So all of this metadata is available in Ataccama ONE. And since now we partnered with MANTA, we can combine the metadata MANTA has with the metadata we have and provide you something much more valuable than what we showed you up until now. So again, let's go back to the screenshots. So we are not just talking. So this is the default view you get from MANTA, from parsing all the SQL codes and procedures, understanding the flow of the data. In Ataccama ONE, we can actually modify the visualization, and we can, for example, enable business terms. So if instead of the codes, I don't really understand as a business user, I want to see the business terms I understand very well, I can just enable it here, and immediately for available attributes, I will see the business terms I am familiar with. Obviously, if I want to, I can click on the term and I would see the definition if I don't remember the definition precisely. So this is a really basic example to show you how we can really simply enhance the metadata. Now, going back to the example I already talked about, seeing the PII data flow. So now I'm looking at party table, but if I want to see the flow of PII data, I can just click on the PII asset, the metadata asset, business term, and show the lineage for this term. So in this example, we have a simplified flow of a data warehouse. You can see the data warehouse in the middle. It has 3 layers. And then you can see some data marts and report that are used in BI, so in BI team, for example, prepared in BI team. Everything that's coming out of those reports contain PII data. So that's the output of this screen. We can actually see which data marts are used for creating these reports, and we can see how the affected assets are changing on the different layers. So the L0 in data mart contains quite a lot of assets with PII data, but L1 actually contains much less. I guess this is due to some consolidation and merging of assets together, so the number of assets with PII data decreases. And then in the second layer, it increases again. And in this case, I believe it's going to be due to the cleansing that's in place. So maybe we were able to cleanse some data and then classify it as PII. And at the very beginning of this diagram, we can see all the data sources that are being used for populating the data warehouse. And the highlighted ones are the ones that contain PII data. So this is a really simplified flow that's used for demonstrating how you no longer have to visualize flow only for specific table or attribute, but you can visualize it for metadata object. In this case, it's a PII business term. So let's go back to the previous view. I want to talk about the other configuration possibilities as well. So we already enabled business terms, and now it would be really nice if we could show some information about data quality. So if I enable the data quality option, again, this is information that's already available in Ataccama ONE. So what we are just doing is we are mapping it to the data lineage flow, the data lineage view, is the information about data quality. So we can see how the data quality, in this case on an attribute and also table level, is increasing throughout the flow thanks to the cleansing and standardization that's in place. And again, this is something that's really useful both for the business users to know that the data they are using is valid, but also for the ETL developers, because they can check that what they are doing is correct and they are improving the quality of the data throughout the flow. And they can actually really see how well they are doing here. So this is another example, another type of metadata that you can enrich your data lineage with. So the last one I would like to talk about is anomalies. So if we take a look at this flow, it's actually about detecting some unsuspicious changes and issues in the flow. So you can see that the platform was able to detect 3 anomalies in the data load. We can see them highlighted here, and we can see that this one is kind of special. It's highlighted more, and the reason for that is that this is the first occurrence of the anomaly throughout the flow. So obviously, all the anomalies that are upstream from this one are the result of this anomaly. So once an ETL developer is, for example, being asked to fix a report that suddenly contains some suspicious values, suspicious data, they can take a look at the flow of the report. So the report would be this one, the customer's report, and they would immediately see which is the first asset that is corrupted. So in this case, it's this party_h table. And obviously, once they drill down, they can take a look at the procedure that is actually populating this table, and they can fix it. They can take a look at the detail of this specific attribute. So if I want to see what the anomaly is about, I can just simply click on it. And in the sidebar on the right, I can immediately see that there is some outlier value system migration So in the frequency analysis below, we can see that suddenly we have a 4,500 customers that have a name system migration. So with this information, I can take a look at the procedure that's populating this table, and I can fix it quickly. One thing I would like to mention here is the technology that's behind this. Doing this using a rule-based approach would be, let's say, impossible. You would have to write so many options and so many variations of the rules that you just wouldn't have the resources to do that. So what we are doing instead, in this case, is we are leveraging machine learning and the pattern-based approach. And basically, we are looking at the time series in your data, and we are comparing the versions, historical versions with the current ones. We are detecting changes and basically predicting what should be the next value. And then once some anomaly is detected, we can automatically spot it and notify relevant users. So this is something that doesn't need any sophisticated configuration. You just import the information about data lineage from MANTA, and then you set up some processing in Ataccama ONE that will continuously check your data, and then the anomalies would be automatically detected. The key takeaway here from me is this one. You no longer have two separate groups. You have the ETL developers on one side, then business users on the other side. They don't usually talk to each other that much. You actually have one interface where both of these groups can meet. They can sit down, they can take a look at the current state of the data that's being used, and they can discuss what should be improved, what is working, what is not, and they would actually understand each other. They would be able to speak the same language thanks to the mapping of the business metadata on top of the technical one. I guess most of the audience on this webinar already knows about the benefits of data lineage. I guess you are interested in the aspect of using data lineage for business. But again, to quickly summarize it, just to be sure, going to the really first example, data catalog, it's all about speed and transparency, the ability to be able to find the assets you are looking for and understand them. The information about data lineage significantly hence helps to close this gap, and it enriches the metadata in the catalog, so then users are able to quickly find the data assets they are looking for, and they know how the asset has been created, where is it used, etc. This significantly reduces the time needed for doing the initial analysis of which data should be actually used for given task. Because it's all documented in the data catalog, it's all there. So if I do something manually and if I enhance the metadata manually, it's gonna be documented there forever, and my other colleagues won't have to do it. They can actually benefit from the work I've already done. And obviously, most of the audience on this webinar is probably under some regulation. Either it can be the generic data protection, or it can be some industry-specific regulations such as Basel Accords or solvency for insurance, FCC, etc. Obviously, the data lineage has a lot of potentials and benefits to anybody that needs to comply with those regulatory with those legislations. Because, for example, reporting your PI data is really easy with that, or proving how some report has been created is really easy as well. So this is one of the common use cases why data lineage is used. And once you enrich it with the business metadata, it really simplifies the process that's needed for the preparation. Key takeaways from my side: you definitely need to start with the data lineage. Everybody should be monitoring the real state of your architecture, of your warehouse, of your data lake, so you know how the data is flowing there. But don't stop there. Once you enrich this metadata for the, let's say, business metadata, it's gonna dramatically increase the benefit you get out of it. So be sure that you are looking for a solution that can actually combine both. If you take data lineage as just one checkbox that everybody is saying you need lineage, so you will check the checkbox and you will not really use it, then it's actually time wasted, meaning money wasted, right? If you take a look at, if you look for the proper solution, you can actually really benefit from this. It's gonna signify the importance of lineage because it's gonna provide much more value to you than just checking one checkbox. So this was for the data lineage part. I hope everything was clear, and I hope that using the visualization help you to imagine what you can actually get from this partnership, what we can provide together, Ataccama and MANTA. And I would like to hand over back to Afshin, so Afshin can quickly summarize the whole Ataccama platform, because today we just covered one part of it. So Afshin, please, back to you.
David and Ernie, I wanted to thank you for the presentation. I'll jump into this right now. I just wanted to give a bit of a quick look at Ataccama before we move to the Q&A. So David, sorry for jumping in and taking over. In partnering with MANTA, we have definitely been able to enrich our already comprehensive data management offering with the addition of Lineage. Here you can see that we obviously cover a wide range of data management use cases with our Ataccama ONE platform. So while today we focus on how MANTA's data lineage offering in combination with our data management capabilities can increase business value, there are certainly other use cases in the data management space, such as you can see in the data quality and MDM and reference data management space that we can help you with. So if any of these uses on the screen may be relevant to your organization, we would love to learn more about your use case and discuss if there's an option for us to learn a little more. So I will just let you digest what's on the screen for just a second. And if any of these are, again, if they're interesting, please feel free to reach out. Okay, so moving on to a little bit about Ataccama. For the ones that don't know us or have not interacted with us before, we are a software company located, headquartered in Toronto. However, we have several offices across the globe. We focus and we sort of want to be the enterprise self-driving data management and governance tool for your organization, covering topics from data discovery, profiling, data management as such, data quality, and MDM and reference data management. We've been on the Gartner quadrants for both DQ and MDM for about 10 years now. With one of the very few vendors that are on both the DQ and MDM quadrant. Some of you may have seen the latest MDM Magic Quadrant that came out from Gartner. For the ones that haven't, please be sure to take a look and really have a chance to see what Gartner highlights as Ataccama's strengths. Also, a lot of our existing customers have provided fantastic reviews that can be accessed through the Gartner Peer Insight portal. If you guys haven't seen that, I would really suggest for you to take a look to help you better understand what Ataccama's offering is. As of right now, we have over 350 plus enterprise organizations across the world that are using Ataccama. Some of the most popular verticals are in the financial services, pharma, healthcare, telco, retail. But Ataccama itself is really vertical independent and can really help any organization that is looking to bring in a mature, self-driving data management and governance tool on board. So should you want to learn a little more about Ataccama, feel free to reach out. We'll be more than happy to set up individual sessions with your organization and walk you through some of the things that we can do. Having said that, I think we have quite a bit of time left that we can address some of the Q&A questions that we have. However, I would ask David if you could read the questions, as it seems that my Zoom is not allowing me to access the questions themselves.
Sure. So let's take a look at the questions. There is first one related to integrations, especially with Calibra. If both MANTA and Ataccama are able to integrate with Calibra, the answer is yes.
David, I think yes. So I can take it from there for that question personally. So we do have quite a few clients that both MANTA and Ataccama have worked with that are using a combination of Calibra and MANTA, Calibra and Ataccama. So we do have specialized integration points with Calibra and quite a few successful implementation. There are obviously some areas where there could be some overlap, but in general, to be able to bring a best-of-breed approach and multi-tool approach. We've had quite a bit of success with existing Calibra customers. So there's another question that I actually do have access to. It says, if we do get Ataccama One, do we still need Calibra? I think that's a very is a question that should be answered on individual basis. We have customers who have very specific needs that focus more on data management outside of data itself, more of like very, let's say, business-driven data governance. Some of the organization may require some of the features that Calibra provides. I think it's something that we will probably have to discuss individually, that, you know, depending on what your use case is trying to address. Does Ataccama and MANTA integrate with Talent Data Fabric platform? What are the challenges? Ataccama and MANTA do integrate with all the major data integration tools in the market. There are quite a few different types of integration options, from obviously on the Ataccama side, real-time integration through API calls, to different types of batch integration. We've had quite a few successful implementation with Talent and specific Data Fabric platform. What are the challenges? I think the challenges are more project related in terms of the integration. It's a fairly straightforward integration, and I'm not sure if Ernie wants to jump in, but from the MANTA side, there are native connectors to Talent to be able to read the metadata from Talent as well.
Yes, Talent is one of the ETL tools that we've long been pulling in, and would render that lineage within the Ataccama platform as we saw the screenshots.
Thank you,
thank you,
Ernie.
I actually skipped one important question, quite a good one. So I can read it. With the Ataccama-MANTA collaboration, would end users need to purchase both tools separately, or do they get access to both applications with one? So I guess
that's a great question. Yes, that's a great question, David. So both both MANTA and Ataccama have decided to streamline the licensing. For customers that are either looking at or are currently using Ataccama One, the MANTA features and licensing can be provided directly through Ataccama, so you wouldn't have to go through two vendors. And in fact, a lot of the features that MANTA provides can actually be natively accessed through the Ataccama interface itself. So it is a very streamlined and very strong partnership, both on the technical side, but also on the licensing side. So the short answer is no, you will need only one license.
There's one other question in the chat. I can take this one. It's about the integration between MANTA and Ataccama and how it actually works. Once you install both of these applications, let's say in-house, it doesn't really matter if it's in cloud or on-premise. So the integration is actually really seamless, because what you do is you deploy MANTA separately, and then you use MANTA to basically go through all the scripts and procedures you have and generate the data lineage, and the data lineage is stored in MANTA repository. Then you have Ataccama data catalog that actually connects to your data sources. We usually initiate profiling that's used for generating additional metadata and doing data classification, meaning automatically assigning business terms, running data quality checks, and detecting anomalies. So this is, let's say, built in the Ataccama data catalog. And the integration between catalog and MANTA storage is actually seamless, because the metadata objects in the data catalog are the same as the objects in the MANTA lineage. So they automatically map to each other. And thanks to this automatic mapping, we can visualize it on the data lineage view. So 12.5 release, we released I think it was December last year, is the first version that contains the working integration between MANTA and Ataccama. And once you do have this latest version, I'm not sure if this is some of our customers asking. So if you do have the latest version, the integration between MANTA and Ataccama is basically seamless. You don't have to do anything. You just have to provide the same credentials for the same data sources. That's the only thing you have to do.
Thank you, David. I think there's a couple more questions that came in through the chat. One of them is, how do you map the business metadata to the technical metadata, and is this done manually?
Yeah, we actually kind of answered that now. It's definitely not done manually. Then you could do everything manually, right? So it wouldn't make much sense. So it's all automated. You just connect to the data sources. The only thing you need to make sure you have the same names, and then the mapping is automatic.
Thank you, David. There's a couple more. One of them is, how does anomaly detection in data lineage work?
We briefly discussed it during the webinar, but just to summarize, I think the biggest benefit of this is it's pattern-based. So you don't have to define any rules. What is anomaly? Basically, the platform automatically detects anomalies, and then it's learning from the user behavior when the user is accepting or rejecting the anomaly. So it's actually training itself to understand what anomaly actually is. So the only input is to have data, historical data, to have multiple versions. Then anomalies are detected automatically using AI and or machine learning, to be specific. And then as over time you are using the tool, it actually learns from the interactions and get better by itself.
Thank you, David. There's a couple new questions. One of them is how to export the data profiling and lineage results from Ataccama tool, and what export formats do you support, and can we pull the results to a BI reporting tool?
So I know we only showed a couple of screenshots, but all the stuff that's available on UI is also available on an API level. So all the metadata that's being stored both in Manta and Ataccama can be accessed throughout web services. And this can be used for some batch exporting and, I don't know, synchronization with third-party tools. So like the API is completely open, and you can access it from any other service in your environment. And then obviously you can set up some user-based exports if you want to. So if you want to export just one specific table and the metadata about the table, this is available as well. Not all the people actually use our DQ visualization layer. That's actually part of the tool. What I usually do is they use Ataccama for the data quality validation, running the processing on our engine. And then they are storing the results into database usually, and then using traditional BI tools they already have in place for visualizing the data quality. So this is available as well. You can actually load the data quality results into any relational database or as extracts, and then you can use it for building your traditional reports in Power BI, Tableau, or whatever tool you are used to using.
Thank you, David. I think to the last sentence, there's a follow-up question. Do Ataccama and MANTA integrate with Click BI tool?
We do on the same level. So we just store the data into dedicated database, and then Quick will read it from this database.
Right.
And from a MANTA perspective, Click is on our very short-term roadmap for importing the lineage coming from Click.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Ernie. One more question. I think it's probably more specific to the MANTA side. Are we able to see specific procedures or scripts?
Ernie, do you want to take this one?
Sure. So yes, when we bring in the particular script, whatever it is, let's say it was a stored procedure from a SQL-oriented database, we maintain that entire SQL, looking at the specific statements within it, right down to the columns used and the expressions. And then if the expressions are surfaced, but if you want to look at the actual code, if you're a person that has that interest and wants to, they can view that as well by drilling down.
I guess we could also mention that you can see the transformation logic. So if you are actually interested in knowing what's happening, you don't have to look at the code. Manta can actually provide the transformation logic as well. So you have both options.
Wonderful. There's one more question. It's in relation to the slides and if the recording will be made available. Yes, the team will be sending an email to all registered parties, and we'll give you some direction on how both the slides and the recordings can be accessed. One more question. If our ETL tool is Talent and the jobs within Talent calls out other scripts from Python, etc., does MANTA include the Python details in the full Lineage as well?
Great question. And from the general sense of embedded kinds of scripting that you might put into your ETL tool, the answer is yes, especially today for any of the SQL that we support. We would actually parse that after we see that it's part of the Talend process. We don't have Python yet. It's one of the things that we're working on. But the basic premise is for all of our ETL tools, where they reach out and do other things that we support, we would extend the parsing to that, especially today for SQL.
Thank you. It looks like we've answered all the open questions. Should there be any additional questions, feel free to reach out to the Ataccama team. We're more than happy to set up a session. There's a link also there called demo@ataccama.com, or you can also reach to us at info@ataccama.com. I wanted to thank you all for taking the time to join us in this webinar. As I mentioned before, we'll be sharing both the slides and the recording with anybody who has registered for the webinar. And I want to thank you all for attending and participating in the Q&A session as well. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.